And all right, so thank you all again for joining. This will be our newest edition of our Circle Talk series with Descope featuring Rishi. We're really excited to have you on. He's the co-founder of Descope and has done a lot of great things throughout his career. And we're really excited to hear from you and some of the lessons around PLG, lessons about building Descope, and any other tidbits that you'd like to share along your way. So yeah, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brent, and excited to share my learnings over the years with the team. Let me hit the share. My request to all of you guys, let's keep it interactive. Let me know as we'll save time towards the end with questions. And if you have questions along the way, feel free to type them in the chat. I'll pick them up at the end. Let's say, so I think what we thought we would do today is, I think, share a little bit of the journey with Demisto, what I have seen some of the other products do. I'll get into the details. Demisto was not really a PLG company. I mean, PLG word didn't exist back then. Our industry changes so fast. So this is learnings from Demisto and how we used principles very similar to what in PLG is being called. So we'll go there. But before that, quick background on me. Started as an engineer. My first job started dating myself here in 2001, which is not even on the chart here, in optical network, fiber networking. The world, like the entire Silicon Valley, came crashing down in 2000, 2001. Very different experience. But my security experience started in solid code, which is what you see here. That got acquired by McAfee, which got acquired by Intel, keep going big company. Back to small company, started Demisto in 2015, got acquired by Palo Alto, stayed with Palo Alto for a good 3 years, then started Descope this April. So I think I've spent enough time in large companies and startups to see different go-to-market motions, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. Different aspects of go-to-market motions and how they apply to today's world. In terms of agenda, thought of structuring it is try to define PLG from my perspective. And I have seen product management, go-to-market sides both very, very closely. In fact, my career started in engineering, and Slavik, my co-founder, jokes around, I'm moving over to the dark side slowly but surely. But the way I will focus on most of the content here is how do we learn the lessons both from a product perspective and go-to-market perspective, because done right, PLG can help mature the product, learn, get feedback from the community very fast if done right. So let's define PLG. I think in my opinion, PLG is a business methodology, not go-to-market, and I think this is very important, right? Overall business product methodology, everything encompassing, in which user acquisition, expansion, conversion, and retention are all driven primarily by the product itself. Not to say sales go-to-market is not helpful, but product is in the lead. You use product somehow, either as a key part of that process or as the lead piece in that process. But I think the important thing here is the Lego pieces, which is user acquisition, expansion, conversion, retention, all of those different aspects. And we'll dig into different learnings from each of these sections as we go along. Let's first look at, again, focus on these words on the PLG tactics, right? So I think fundamentally, when I look at it, the idea is to bring product and its value closer to the customer to drive any of these pieces. We'll cover different examples, but a good one is anytime you can make the product to acquire, use the product to acquire customers, use the product features or gating features or teasing different features to drive expansion because you're able to get more seats, more licenses within a customer. Anytime you're able to use product capabilities to drive a free to a paid. And then the last is, can you use product capabilities or product features in the right way to drive long-term retention? So this is different aspects of PLG tactics. And in my experience, the reason I'm focusing so much on the definition is if you look at your product, look at your company, look at your business, and are able to articulate what part of product helps us in user acquisition. Can it help us in conversions, expansions, retention, and think with that lens, you'll be able to do the right thing from a fast growth perspective. So let's jump into some of the Demisto lessons. Before we go there, as I said, like before PLG was cool, Demisto started in 2015. The product went generally available in June of 2016. One of the things which I heard an amazing compliment from CEO of one of our competitors was that building a community around the Demisto product back then in 2015, 2016 was a masterstroke. And the reason why I mention that is it was very interesting. And I think I see DevRev and many other companies doing it now, which is even before the product is available, start to build a community, start to network with your users, learn from them, figure out where they hang out. So a lot of the pieces that we did at Demisto, which, as I mentioned, started in 2015, September, GA 2016, these things didn't exist. So before we go into details, I would love to hear, I think communities are very common today. Let's do a poll, Brant. We have a Zoom poll. Like, how many communities are you guys part of? And let's see a quick poll on these. Good number of responses. Responses still rolling in. Okay, I think we are pretty much good. Responses start rolling in. So I'll Brand, I don't know if you have a way to share the result of this one. Otherwise, I can verbalize the results for people. I'll go through those. Oh, perfect. So that's actually super interesting, right? I mean, if I look at this, almost 40% people between 4 and 6 communities, 56% people 0 to 3 communities. What this tells me is I think community is common now, people, all of us, and I'm part of, at least I would put myself in, like I'm part of 7 to 10, but actively where I'm watching or doing, I would put in 4 to 6. And it's interesting that these are communities with venture capitalists, like our investors, different communities, product management communities, there is PLG communities that I'm part of. These communities are either on Slack or different aspects, but the overall concept is it's become very common now. It was not back then. What drove, and I think I could arguably say at that point of time, we were one of the, oops, can you close that one out, Brant? Yeah, thank you. We can safely say that when I look at it, we were one of the early Slack communities. Slack did not have all the features of invite process, different aspects of understanding, collecting the right set of data for the users. There were no tools which were community monitoring tools such as those exist now. We hacked it all together. But what was important was we really focused on the space our persona was in, right? I mean, we really said it's not a Demisto community, but it is a DFIR community. DFIR stands for Digital Forensics and Incident Response. And it says, let's give our users a space to discuss the problems that they see in their day-to-day life. Let them talk about what are they struggling with. Let them come together. created an amazing level of interaction. It was open to all competitors, vendor agnostics. Few things that we disallowed was disallowed product post to most cases. We didn't want people talking about their products in open channels. But competitors were allowed. Competitors were allowed to comment on problems that were going on. Even as Demisto, we had one channel where we would post our announcements about our meetups, our events. Other open channels which were there for discussions, they were discussions. They were about playbooks, about ideas, about automations, and did not focus on promoting our product. Very, very critical to maintain that right balance is what we found. And we found that users need to make sure that users feel comfortable. We need to make sure that users feel comfortable. It drove acquisition, conversion, and product improvements. Let's take some examples. From an acquisition perspective, we were able to kind of not only get the new users become aware of Demisto, but also we drove surveys, like research reports. We created the state of the SOC report. We needed input from people like how are they doing certain aspects of incident response. So it says, where do we go survey for the state of SOC? Security Operations Center is what SOC stands for. We went to the community, posted surveys. That data was collected, turned into a report, which became amazing educational piece for the community back because they could see this data collected and they aggregate views on what other people are seeing, what trends are being seen, but also became an amazing marketing asset for our sales team in later stage to take it to customers who were not in the community and share and drive the community back. So it had a very positive feedback loop. Community snippets were highlighted in newsletter. This is another way, right? I mean, all of us have seen newsletters for communicating to the larger customer base. We highlighted the community snippets. What are people discussing? People are discussing this. We opened up channel for job boards, open source tools, hackathons, local events. And these channels initially needed our care and feeding. We posted stuff. And then later on, it started to become more and more community driven over time. And people started to post, people started to create. What was very interesting, it's not on the slide here, is we found that 70% of the communication was happening one-on-one private communication, which actually, in some senses, is no direct value to us as a community organizer, but I feel that is a sign of a buzzing community. People were chatting one-on-one, finding each other, and I'm okay with that. Because eventually the purpose of that was to really keep the goal as provide our potential users or digital forensic incident responders a place to hang out, to talk, almost like a water cooler concept for this persona, if you will. And that's what we enabled. In terms of conversion, we saw people helping us do free edition troubleshooting. Like somebody would download a free edition, somebody else would ask, hey, how do I do this? Others would help, we would help. Also drives knowledge, almost like a knowledge awareness. People would learn from that. Then we actually did have private channels for our proof of concepts, proof of values. This was again with the same spirit of not polluting the open community, but using them as private channels in the same place as community was really, really good. Because what happens is, let's say you start a proof of concept for an enterprise customer, because we were, if you look at it, right, no sale happened without a salesperson being involved. So if a customer would start a proof of concept, they would be still invited to a private channel, to the whole private channel in the community. They would talk to us on the private channel, but then they would see all the community chatter. What are different people asking? So there were ideas generated, there were discussions generated, and they would see this whole buzzing community. So the private Slack channel plus the open community worked really well. Product improvements, tons of product improvements came from all of these discussions. We were able to tap into community for getting user research, feedback on early beta releases. We would have our UX team go pick up community members who were very, very active even though they were not customers, even though they had not downloaded the product, get on a call and say, how do you do this? Can we show you these UX features and get your feedback directly? So that started to drive product improvements. And then the last one, which started to materialize towards the later part, was community-driven playbooks. I think this was not a whole lot of it happened in the early days, but towards later part, we said, okay, how do we, there was a big ransomware launched, I'm blanking out the exact name, I think in second year of our existence. And we went to community and says, hey, how are we responding to this particular ransomware? There were thoughts, ideas that came back. We took that data, turned it into a marketplace, turned it into a playbook, published it on our marketplace as free content. So tons of product improvement coming back from the community across different aspects. So that I think is a quick overview on how we used some of the aspects of the Slack community. This is another question poll for the team here, Brand, if you can. And then I'll talk about how the free trial model and how we put that into terms of PLG. Very interesting data coming through. Okay, I think still flowing. So let's keep the poll on. Okay, still coming, couple. Okay, any last ones in, guys? All right, Brant, let's share the results. This is very interesting results. Okay, this slide doesn't show all the results. I'll read the second part. So this is very interesting, right? So I think one of the other aspects, which as an enterprise product, by the way, so Demisto was an enterprise product, not an easy product to use, not an easy product to install and get the full value. But we did have a free edition. And as you can see in today's world, I think tons of free trials, SaaS products. Majority of the people are actually saying they have used 3 to 5 products, some even more than 7. Incredible. And I am part of that same thing. In fact, my way of selecting a product is trying to use the product rather than read the marketing material on that product. I still read the marketing material, but I tend to read probably either right after or read a little bit, try the product, and then read the rest. The second part of this question was, how many did you end up converting to paid, which the results don't show here. And I see less than 10%, 78% people tell that less than 10%. 16% people say 10 to 30% were converted. I think the bottom line here, what I'm seeing, which is the typical buying behavior of today's user as well, is that you need to enable free trials. The conversion may still be less than 10%, but still you will get the awareness, still you will get feedback. And 10% conversion done right is actually a very good marketing and success metric overall, because your cost of acquisition of the customer is much lower if you instrument the free trial correctly. So let's close this. So these are the lessons from our free edition. And again, I'll put it into the same context, excuse me, which is acquisition, retention, expansion, same aspects. That is what we talked about in the community aspect. The big lesson though, and this one, put it in context again, enterprise product. If the product is easy from a build SaaS, easy to try, then the level of sales assistance is different. But from our experience, it was a 30-day full trial. of the entire product. But then after that, it went into reduced number of automations, but entire product continued to work. So this is always a big question. Do I do it as a trial? Do I do it as a free product forever? And my guidance always is showcase the full product, all the features, just with limited capacity. So limited number of automation is what we used. You could do limited users, you could do limited invites, different aspects, but meter it. But you want to get your user the experience of the entire product. As a user, I do not like when a certain feature is not available at all to me to experience it. I feel betrayed with the concept of the free trial, with the concept of the community edition, if you were to, all choice of these words is also very critical. And lots of products are guilty of that, which is certain features are not available at all, so you cannot even try them. At least my opinion, design your free edition, if you have a perpetual free edition, to showcase everything, but cap it on the number of, some sort of capacity there. From a lessons learned perspective, sales assist works much needed in a certain category of our products. For us, it was really an interesting combination of the community-led BDR or SDR outreaching, help convert those community edition members. And you've got to be careful. I mean, you don't want to bug the user because the user may be a person who wants to try. So we were very careful on when to send, what notifications to send, who contacts them, what persona contacts them. But sales assist is needed is what we learned in at least the class of products Demisto played in, because people did need help with our product to set it up to get the most value out of it. And that's my second point here, which is the more technical and complicated your product is, the more sales assist you will need is likely. If you believe everybody could kind of go through your product and set up all of its own, you design the product that way, kudos to you. You can have less sales assist. But still, I would recommend that keep a close eye on where the drop-off is. If a user comes in, downloads the product, tries the product on day one, but never comes back after that, do you need a sales assist? Do you need an automated email reminder, a push that you did not do this? And a lot of this is being put into motion in most of the PLG-driven companies and products. But I think watch the journey of that free edition users as you go through. And this third point is very interesting. We noticed that we had a very diverse buying group, right? I mean, there were retail security engineers, there would be a director of security engineering from a financial company. The number of integrations that they would need to connect into is different. If the buyer persona is varied, if you are selling to both product managers and engineers and customer success, then you definitely need to either build the product to guide them with their persona or need a sales assist to help them. So watch for that sales assist, but I feel sales assist is needed. It works primarily because everybody is busy, right? I mean, I start a free trial of the product, get busy with something else. A little nudge always helps me, even if I'm on the using side or the buying side. Learning curve is inversely proportional to the free trial impact. So I think this is a product design thing, philosophy. Our learning was the trickier a product to get started, the less positive impact a free trial will have. Sometimes you can do very little to make the product too easy. I think certain products, certain categories are that. But still, the more you can do to make the product easy, the faster your aha moment is, the more the impact of the free trial is. Obvious stuff, but I think, again, I wanted to list it out there for you to think through and design these aspects into the product, into the trial aspect, into the free edition aspect as you go through this. So that I think, looking at the time here, yeah, we are fine. Those are some of the key things. Let's go through, let's go through the poll, brands. about the next section, and we'll jump in there. So this is a question. Basically, what I'm trying to judge is when you are trying a product, do you look at your current environment? Do you test whether it works in your current environment even before you start the free trial? Do you do it after you start the free trial before buying, or don't check at all? But this is about how does the product fit in your environment, and we had a ton of learnings as we took the Demisto product out there, and hence this particular question.
Looks like we also have a question in chat whenever you have a chance.
Let's actually pull that up while people are asking this. Oops. Okay, I'm going to close the poll window out to see the chat window because it only... Brian, can you read it out? For some weird reason, it's not showing me the chat window.
Yeah. Any ideas on how to make a user join the Slack community? Do you get their identity to follow up, or is there another option?
This has changed a lot. In fact, a topic of debate internally for us. The obvious way is Slack does give you an invite URL, like a link to self-invite or invite the user so that they can self-register into the community. So the obvious thing to do, and we are doing this on our site right now, is absolutely have a link to join the community. The user is taken to a sign-up page and they log in. The only other way, because Slack is not designed, by the way, to be an open community platform from that perspective, the only other way it works is you collect the user's email and you invite them if you are at an enterprise grid level where you can add them and they get an invite. Otherwise, it's mostly send the user that link for invite and they need to self-register. This was different, by the way, at the time of Demisto, where we could actually invite the user. We wrote custom code APIs to invite the user, which was a higher conversion rate. But I think the question behind the question, if I were to peel, is like, what is the best conversion that you can get? My opinion is give them the link, given the constraint that Slack puts, give them the link to join, and the link could be from a web form on your website, which you collect and send them an email. The link could be open on your website, and then let them join in. And over time, if you collect the email, start to include in your regular marketing communications the highlights from the community, because people join a community if they see the value of the community, if the community is buzzing, if there is action there, otherwise they won't. So one of the things that really worked for us, Demisto, as I mentioned earlier, Abhi, who led our marketing, and he's in the call, which is took the right excerpts from the community every month, push that in there. So that worked very well for us. Okay, do we want quickly, let's share the results on that one before trying a product. So this one, I think there's another question in the chat. I'll get to that later, but this is very interesting, right? So the data obviously here is 50% of the people assume try it, like check whether the product works before even trying, and 50% before buying. Either which way, I think the majority very clearly relies on the fact when you get a product, it works in your environment. And this was a big lesson for us. Acquisition, retention, conversion, every aspect is understand your customers' environment and ecosystem. Super important for PLG. Like if you ask me, one of the things we got from our community was, what is the endpoint product do you use? What is the network product do you use? And really figure out, can you meet customers 70-80% of the work in their environment criteria very quickly? So we, from a product perspective, Demisto actually integrated, I think it may be north of 800 plus integrations now, but it was all about those integrations. At the time of Palo Alto acquisition, we were greater than 220 integrations, worked with customers, products, and we regularly build these new integrations with our community, with our partners, all of our integrations were completely open source. We would take pull requests from people. Again, more common now, but I would say back then it was not that common. People asked like, hey, if you put these integrations in open source, can't your competition take those integrations and save a lot of work? I says, go for it. I mean, it's perfectly fine. If we are doing it first, we will still be better than our competition taking these. But we really put the open source, put the source code of our integrations out there, let community contribute, let partners work with us live, drove amazing buzz around it. There was not a whole lot of contribution, but people felt that we are working with them, we are open to working with them. And then we started to showcase these integration videos with CrowdStrike, with Splunk, all of those out there, because these were integrations built. So a lot done on kind of showcasing these integrations. There's some work on the being places at marketplace. AWS came much later, but that's also, again, promoting the aspect that your product, again, putting the PLG hat on, your product can work with other products, drives the expansion and acquisition both really, really well, and retention really, really well. So keep an eye if your product is one of those which would integrate, deliver more value with more integration, which I think a lot of the enterprise products are these days. Definitely lean on that as one of the leading driving forces for growth. There were new use cases that came from these partner integrations. I remember Netflix, Pokemon came in because we said, hey, let's do the AWS integration because Netflix as a customer asked it. We built it very lean. And then we asked community what more can we do. And eventually there were more and more cloud security automation use cases that started to emerge. But this was kind of the product enhancement integration were more organic, right? One customer asked for it, we did it, we posted it, open sourced it. Somebody else looked at it. The community members talked with each other. Like I remember Netflix and Pokemon and Viva on these AWS use cases were talking among themselves, right? So, hey, we do this, do you do this, we do this. And these were features which were not even in the integration in the product, but that resulted in the integration becoming better over time. So literally this open build in public philosophy for anything that is integration related was super powerful in the early days. There were use cases, employee onboarding, offboarding playbooks, which came from community. So I think from an integration standpoint, heavily relied on some of those pieces. So I think let's get to where we are. This is kind of the recap slide for us, and then I'll get into questions given the time we have. I think one of the important things I am seeing now, which I would say we didn't do a very good job at Demisto, because I think it was a different time, different product. User onboarding is key. I am starting to learn and see that it is very, very critical. If you are a PLG company, if you want to acquire your customers early on, user onboarding is critical. When the user hits your product, your site, by the way, website and product are not distinguishable in today's world. You really don't want the user to feel that they're going from a marketing site to a product. Ideally, you would let them flow in very easily and have that good experience in the first 30 minutes. And I think I really believe that they will come back. You may not want to give them a complete experience of the entire product, all the features, but give them a good experience, deliver some value in first 30 minutes, and then they will come back, and then you can show them the entire product. Dirty data is your enemy. This flipping back, when I am looking at myself as a seller, as a marketer, as a go-to-market, as a product manager, I don't want email addresses like ffgg@gmail.com, right? I do not want unvalidated email addresses these days. There was a time when you wanted every email address out there for a web download, an ebook download, all of this stuff. I truly believe, and again, we can debate on this topic all the time, but for me, a validated identity is more important. Like, if say somebody interested in my product, I want a good email address. And good does not mean, by the way, corporate. Gmail is okay. A lot of your users will be individual trials who will eventually use that for their businesses. But a good email address is somebody who you can communicate with. You establish the identity, but carry that identity throughout your marketing systems, throughout your product, and build that profile completely. And the last one is providing tangential value. I think we chose words very carefully here. I mean, sometimes we get over fixated on only selling the product value, but sometimes it's important to think of the user persona who is hitting your website. If that is an engineer, it's okay to give them a tool to do their job better, even if it is not directly related to your product. So over time, if your product delivers this much value, you can drive customer loyalty or even free edition loyalty by giving them tools. I almost like the value could be different pieces. It could be related to that persona, not to your product. I'll take an example. The value could be fun, break. Take an example. When we did Descope, I'm getting positive feedback. Would love to hear from people who are on the call. Is like we added Passwordle as a game to our website. What was the goal? Does it work? It's related to the theme of our product, but at the same time, more important is when the user comes in, can they learn about the company? Can they see who we are as a team? We want to be approachable. So building that connection with the end user is important in different ways. I have seen some amazing free tools being developed by other security companies. Snyk did a good job on free tools. Many other companies do these individual tools, individual websites, which are helpful for the persona, not related to the product. So I think that's the summary. There's my last 1 minute pitch. If people want to learn about Descope, I think we are a passwordless authentication platform, making easy to build user identity. Not going to go over this. I would rather take questions. If you want to find us, talk to us. We'll distribute this brand. I'm assuming we're going to distribute these slides, right? We'll let people take off offline. But applying some of the learning as Descope, I call myself a lifelong learner. So applying some of those lessons and continuing to build. With that, I think let's quickly jump to some questions. We have a meetup, by the way, today evening in Menlo Park for people in Bay Area. And if people want to join virtually, this will be live cast on LinkedIn as well. With that, I would love to take some questions. All right, so I see incredible meeting, connect with us. Okay, that's fine. Oh, Abhi, yes. So WannaCry was the ransomware which community came together playbook. You're right. Thanks for pointing that out. Amit is saying, any ideas on how to make user join the Slack community? We addressed that. Megan, hi Megan. If trial registration is Google or Git sign on, what is the best way in your experience to connect it to a company for sales as follow Friday? Excellent question. We are doing this right now. I think first of all, I think you posted this question before my plug-in into that last 3 bullets of identity. Both Google sign in and Git sign in do provide the user's email. I think if people are logging in with their social accounts, done right, and of course we are an identity company, so we are automating this. We can help you with the product too, but even if you're building it yourself, when people sign in with Google or Git, you absolutely, on the receiving side, when you get that identity, you can get their email addresses. You need to write automation to take their email addresses, connect it to your whatever marketing automation is, to drive community sign up, to drive the sales assist. But you need to really connect getting that email from the Google or Git sign up. It's available. All social providers give you that. We use that to then eventually go connect and help the user. Not sure I understand dirty data is your enemy. Are you talking about identifying the user for internal purposes? Your excellent question. What I meant by that is today, majority of the marketing websites, do not validate the user email by sending them a link or an OTP and coming back. People think, let's get the email address. It's friction to validate the email address. I agree, it's friction, but at the same time, I would rather get clean data. There are easy ways, like you take the email address for the user for a product trial, but send them a link for logging into the product rather than direct login, because that may not be a valid email. Or, as Megan pointed out, have Google or Git sign up on your web forms. That's a validated email address. So the point is, how can you avoid the dirty email for marketing, sales assist, and your internal identification purposes? Amit is asking, is segment right tool for capturing user journeys to capture what's used most, or where they fall off? Excellent question, Amit. Happy to share notes later on as well. I am actually seeing Segment does a good job of the data collection on the journey front end, but most of the CDPs do. I think there's enough CDPs out there to do this. There are two different philosophies. One is collect the data, then go into your data lake, or do a reverse ETL on the data lake. Lots of debates there. I have this debate almost on a weekly basis with somebody I know very well who was on Alok was on one of the early PLG talks here as well. I think the bottom line is define the user journey, collect the user journey, act on the user journey. The right tool you'll have to look at for your user scenarios, how much of your product is SaaS, web product, how much it is backend, API driven. Tools may differ, your approach may differ, but yeah, Segment is a fine tool for the web data collection most of the time. Awesome.
Hi, Rishi. I've got a question. I'm just not going to type it up. Sorry, it's a bit late. I'm a bit lazy. What do you think of a dual model, product-led growth for mid-sized and smaller, and then sales-led growth for enterprise and large enterprise?
Excellent question, Serge. And yes, good morning to you. It's 4 a.m. for you, almost 4 a.m. for you. So, what is my view on splitting? So, duo model was a fantastic one. I think the larger enterprise will need more sales assist, not because those people cannot try the product, but the point is the buying cycle is different, but also depends on the product, right? I mean, there are many products like Postman, they get deals with large customers, but small deals with large customers because the individual user can put in a credit card and buy even if they're part of a large org. But yes, most of the time I've seen, if you want to consider an end-to-end sale from the first touch to the sale, that'll happen in the PLG motion only for small to mid. Sales assist will be needed, and more sales assist will be needed with larger orgs, but still, the PLG can help you to get that first foot in the door. I have a favorite story of mine from Demisto days. We got into FedEx as a customer, first meeting, inside sales guys came running. Hey, we called them for the last 3 weeks and we finally got in. We learned they were already using free edition of our product from 9 months ago. So I think PLG can still help in long run. Brand, what do you like? Do we want to continue taking questions? I'm happy, I have time. There's more questions coming in.
Yeah, let's let me see if we have any other ones in the chat. Yeah, again, feel free to send your questions or raise your hands in Zoom, or feel free to just jump in and ask your question if you have any. And then we can give it a few more minutes and then.
Yeah. So one of the other questions is, how is value prop in Unite USP defined? Raghav, this is I think not really. Well, it's important to PLG even more. I mean, I truly believe your value prop and product positioning is the critical piece where you start your go-to-market motions always. Literally, I believe you need to really define that, but then keep changing that. Like almost on a quarterly basis, you got to revisit because you learn from the message, you learn from the field. It's even more critical in PLG motion because you don't have a salesperson telling your unique value prop and your competitive differences. You need to weave that into your product because that's what's leading here. And you need to weave that into your marketing material, your website, which basically means you need to really decide, is the unique value prop of your product, how can you show that with ease? Because onboarding is critical. So very important becomes even more important for PLG because you got to have it self-explanatory to some extent. Okay, guys, I think we'll call it a day then. Really good chatting with you all. Feel free to connect with me. Feel free to join our community from the Descope website and request beta. And I know even Brand posted the DevRev product up there. So let us know if we can help in any way.
Yeah, thank you again for the talk. I think we all learned a lot, and yeah, it's always great hearing from you and Descope. So best of luck in all of y'all's endeavors, and hopefully we get to kind of talk again before too long. But yeah, again, we have links in the chat, and if you follow Descope and LinkedIn on and DevRev on LinkedIn, then we'll have lots of information there. So awesome.
Thank you, folks.
Thank y'all.